Hello, welcome back to Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. And today we're going to review two news articles which are completely bonkers. One of them slightly better than the other, but this one in particular that we're looking at here from the great CNN, the pinnacle of news. It really is the pinnacle of news and, incredible journalism. I mean, what can you say about this? But anyway, it's good to see that they're still going because, maybe they must be producing a couple of good articles, but the majority is absolute shit. I can't even say that word. Can I? I can't say that word. Anyway, let's go to the article. I am obviously going to be a professional and review this in a professional way because obviously this person here, McFarland, sorry about that, Matt, has produced this wonderful article, and he's done incredible research, and the research really was, absolute perfection. You just can't really criticise him for this article. Basically, I don't know how he draws conclusions from this article, because the majority of it is just, I just don't know what direction it's coming from. Anyway, let's read it. Elon Musk has tried to transform individual vehicle ownership while working on his tunneling venture is now taking aim at public transit. The company and Fort Lauderdale, Florida are close to agreeing to the first public loop system, which will give people rides in Teslas through the new tunnel between downtown and the beach. So far, reasonably accurate. Blah, blah, blah. The last oldest loop, a reference to the 2.5 mile long local road that connects to the beach. Greater Fort Lauderdale has some of the worst traffic congestion in Florida, hence why we're building this particular proposal, or the Boring Company is building this particular proposal, and that's that's great. We're trying to alleviate the congestion in that area. Feel free to come in with other solutions if people want to bring those in, whether it be buses or some kind of surface tram system or VTOL, whatever other people want to do to fix this problem. Be my guest and do it. But then it's just this is where the article really goes off the rails. But initial plans have a parallel with a surprising source, Robert Moses. So Robert Moses, I don't know who this guy was, or I didn't know who this guy was. Then I obviously did a bit of searching, read an article, went on Wikipedia. The controversial mid-century master builder. So essentially what he was some kind of planner. He was a bureaucrat. He was kind of the lead person on various boards and kind of organisations that controlled various kind of public works in and around New York State. Was he any good? Fairly mixed. He did build a lot of things, though. A lot of those things ultimately resulted in New York doing very well for itself in terms of the economy. However, there were some drawbacks to those particular infrastructure projects. The critics say, who are the critics? Is it just you saying that, Matt? It's Matt, isn't it? Yeah. Is it just you, Matt? Probably yes. The critics say it would potentially entrench inefficiency and structures of inequality. Well, I hardly think it's efficient at the moment that we have essentially cars stuck in traffic doing 4 miles per hour, pumping carcinogenic air into local restaurants and onto the sidewalk. It's no. Electric vehicles are extremely efficient. They use renewable energy. When they're going slowly, they basically use next to no electricity because they're super efficient. There's no wastage in there. Even if Musk doesn't intend for that, I don't understand what he means by this. I really don't. And then I started reading the article and it just got more bizarre. Almost a century ago, Moses also connected the city to a beach. Yeah, so what? He did a lot of projects. Long Island's Southern State Parkway was extended from New York to Jones Beach in 1929. So, I mean, Jesus Christ, this is 90 years ago. Yeah, more than 90 years ago. With the opening of Wantar Causeway, making the beach far more accessible. So obviously, people benefited from it. People bought cars, they then bought gasoline, they then went to the beach and they purchased things to use at the beach. So it obviously boosted the economy. At the time, it was probably a very good decision. Those who built 460 miles of New York parkways, including the route from Queens to Jones Beach, designated all of them to exclude buses. Now, I'm confident that that was correct. But the reason that he did that was because he didn't want buses to use the freeways, possibly because they were very slow, and buses at that particular time, so around the 1930s and 1940s, were pretty garbage. And he basically just wanted these kind of very, low kind of saloons and these big long American cars that they had at the time, open top cars. He wanted them to be using the system, and he just didn't want these old kind of smoke blowing buses on there. The obviously design were intentionally built to be too low for buses to drive under. Well, so what? That was his decision, possibly a bad decision. He didn't really need to do that. As the offer, Pulitzer Prize winning, who cares what this Robert Caro says? It doesn't really matter. Individual car ownership was the hot trend of Moses' time. Yeah, it was. That was the kind of direction that people were going. They wanted more cars, and people had lots more disposable income, and owning a car was a really cool thing to do. And it did definitely improve your quality of life. Like many Americans, he believed in car supremacy, which at the time was a good thing, but obviously now is kind of frowned upon. He's calling it transport modes like buses and trains, even though they use space more efficiently. But the systems did not exist in those areas. So he's not saying, and then I showed this away. That was obviously a bit of a dick move where he vetoed the Long Island Railroad plan, that he should have let that be built. Moses' approach to planning has been criticised as both racist and classist. Now, I don't know why he's comparing Elon Musk to, firstly, this guy who was totally the opposite. He was a bureaucrat. He was a planner. He didn't actually run any businesses, and he only ran for office once. So, and he's totally the opposite of Elon Musk, who's obviously an entrepreneur, engineer, and general nice person who wants to make things better for everyone. These people could not be more different. One's using public money to build infrastructure, one's using private money. It couldn't be more opposite. Most New York City families don't have cars at the time. Yeah, but eventually, within the next 20, 30 years, most families did have cars. Those who did tended to be white and relatively wealthy, so building locals or impacted low. So there's no evidence to suggest that this man, no solid evidence, that there's some kind of what would you call it, superficial kind of evidence that he might have been a racist, but it's just, why are we comparing it to this guy and then saying that this guy is a racist and a classist? Are we then saying that Elon Musk is a racist? I don't get this stupid article, man. It sucks. So I don't think intentionally he woke up in the morning, this guy, and thought, you know what, I'm going to build these overpasses so that they're only 11 foot high, and then that way it's going to stop brown people and black people going to the beach. I really, really don't think, based on what I've read, that was what his approach was. I think it was basically he just didn't want buses on the system. So anyway, the article goes on talking a load of shite like this. Here's another belter. Tickets will be $5 to $8 more expensive than traditional transit. Well, it's hardly like, 200-300% more than traditional transit. It gives people another option. If you are owning a car and you're driving it up and down that road all the time, you might be spending, thousands of dollars on maintenance of your car every year, and then you're spending, many thousands of dollars on gas. So I just don't know where this has come from, that it's just so expensive that people can't use it. If people need to use transport, they will use it. And the fact that there must be bus routes that run along that road, so what does it matter if it costs $5 to $8? It just alleviates congestion, allows more cyclists, more motorbikes, more other forms of transport to use the existing roads. So that is his kind of link to that. Robert Moses is saying that, look, because he's saying $5 to $8, he's also excluding low-income people and people of colour. Well, I'm sure that there's plenty of people who are not black, who are not brown, who are also poor in this area, who potentially wouldn't be able to use the system as well. So it's all a pile of garbage. This is the best one, so I'll save you the best one to last. According to the Boeing Company's website, the tunnels built by Elon Musk's company for public transportation are 12 feet in diameter. Greyhound, the largest intercity bus company in the United States, told CNN Business that its buses need at least 14 feet of diameter to fit in a tunnel. But why would we want to put you in the tunnel? Your buses are powered by gasoline. We don't want you in there. It's just ridiculous. So, he's obviously rang someone up or just made this quote up. Probably just made it up. But who cares about Greyhound? They run their own business. If they want to build their own tunnels and put buses in them, go ahead and do it. But as far as I know, the Greyhound kind of bus system is an absolute joke, and no one really wants to use it unless they absolutely have to. So, yeah, why has it done that? It zoomed in. Anyway, it zoomed in quite a lot there. Let's see if it zoomed in on this one. Anyway, okay, so that article is not exactly the best article. There's a few other things in here. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, good. So, it's a stupid article written by CNN, so what do you expect? So, here's another article. This is from The Observer. I'll put links to these, by the way, in there so you can, you know, attempt to read it. But if you make it to the end, then you deserve a medal because it's garbage. Yeah, earlier this month, Elon Musk Boeing company dominated headlines with its proposal to build a transit tunnel in Fort Lauderdale. Weeks earlier in Las Vegas, the company unveiled its first operational tunnel, 1.7 miles. So it's good that actual, you know, articles now are quoting the full length of the system. So I've noticed that has changed recently, so that's brilliant. While one might think that everything Musk touches is on the forefront of its industry, tunneling experts, so-called tunneling experts, say what Boeing company is building isn't really what that different. So let's have a look. Let's have a look from this expert here, Zhan Zhao. I don't see any new technology being mentioned, said Zhan Zhao, a civil engineering professor at Australia's Monash University. Well, the reason that you've not seen any new technology mentioned is it's not necessarily the technology that's going to make this faster. It's the whole logistics of how the TBM works. Also, I'm doubting that this guy has looked at pictures of the new Proof-Rock machine, which have only just become available, and I've only really been looking at it now for the last month or so. So unless he's been looking at these things and he's decided, there's very, very little detail in this article by The Observer, by the way. I don't know what, you know, what is he saying is standard? Is he saying that everything in there is standard? Because it doesn't look quite standard to me. Some of the components certainly look oversized. The actual spoil removal system looks quite different to what I've seen on previous TBMs. But again, like I always say, the proof is in the pudding. So if they can, you know, deliver, you know, 40, 50, 60 meters per day, then this guy is obviously going to have to say, you know, this is the fastest machine in Nevada. In Florida, comes down to dig a 3-mile tunnel, diameter 12 feet. Nevada is not overly complex. Well, yeah, that's fair enough. It's not the sort of bleeding edge complexity of tunnels, says Michael Mooney, a civil and environmental engineering professor at Colorado School of Mines. Now, I'm sure this guy has a lot of expertise and he probably knows a lot more about tunnels than me. The issue with, for me anyway, is when people are quoting engineer professors at particular universities like this, is that they're not essentially in the industry, and they're not at the, you know, they don't see the constant evolution of technology, and probably in this industry there isn't any. So unless he's actually gone into a tunnel and viewed the Boeing company system, then I can't really take his word that seriously. And the whole idea is to make it less complex, not more complex. So, you know, I don't know what to make of that. I obviously do respect the guy, but I don't really know what to make of that particular quotes. So in general, the longer, wider and deeper a tunnel is, the more difficult it is to build. Yeah, of course it is going to be. A 12-foot diameter tunnel is a small tunnel. It is actually, the external diameter is 14 feet, so it's just the internal diameter is 12. It's actually under 14, but anyway. So that's a big tunnel, obviously. Tricky geology. Let's see what else this is. Here we go. It's a bit more positive. Still, the Boeing company is unique in its own way. Like every other Musk-led company, Boeing is vertically integrated. So, to be fair, this article does finish on like a positive note, so I should give it a little bit of credit. It's certainly better than the CNN article. The company is simultaneously the manufacturer of tunnel boring machines and the builder of tunnels, which makes a ton of sense. Now, some people have said to me that's a bad idea, but I can only see positives. If you want to, you know, build out your systems quickly and integrate new technology, The net benefit of vertical integration is low cost. The Fort Lauderdale project is expected to cost 30 million, probably slightly more than that. The fraction of typical tunnelling costs, according to local leaders. Details of the Boeing company's plan in Fort Lauderdale are unclear. The city is accepting competing proposals prohibited by state law to release specifics. The basic project is completed in mid-August. So basically, they have won that proposal, but we only find out because of the law. We have to wait until kind of like the 20th of August until we find out exactly what's going on. So there you go. Two quite strange articles. To be fair, the Observer one was slightly less worse than this thing, which is there we go, zoomed out a bit. So yeah, this article is insanity, to say the least. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a rant. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of go after FUD and explain to people why it's wrong, especially kind of weird articles like this trying to insinuate that Elon Musk is in some way a racist and doesn't like brown people, which is just crackers, you know. If you look at the workforce at the Fremont factory for Tesla, you can see that Elon Musk is not a racist. He just employs the best people, the best qualified people. So thank you very much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed that episode, and I will see you on the next one. And remember, don't be boring. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum.